Remember when you used to be on social media? The account is still there, technically, somewhere, but you stopped posting, then you stopped checking. Then one day you realized you hadn't opened the app in 3 weeks, and honestly, you felt fine, better than fine actually, and then someone noticed, wait, you're not on Instagram anymore? And suddenly you're explaining yourself like you've done something suspicious, like opting out of a dopamine slot machine somehow requires a formal justification. This video is for the quiet disappearers, the people who were in the feed, played the game for a while, and then one day just walked away. Not dramatically, no goodbye post, no manifesto, just gone. And if you're still thinking about making that exit, this one's for you too. Here's what's interesting about the people who quietly disappear from social media. They're not technophobes. They didn't rage quit after a bad comment thread, although that's a valid origin story. And they're not hiding from the world. Most of them just did a quiet calculation at some point, consciously or not, and the numbers didn't add up. What they were putting in, time, attention, mental energy, the low-level hum of caring what strangers thought of a photo they took on a Tuesday. What they were getting back, a feeling that's hard to name, but very easy to recognize, that slightly hollow, slightly restless thing that happens right after you close the app. We're going to look at 5 things that actually happen, psychologically and neurologically, when someone steps away from social media, not the dramatic transformation version, the real version, because understanding why the exit feels so good might be more useful than another productivity tip you'll forget by Thursday. Social media is fundamentally a comparison machine, and not a fair one. Every time you open your feed, your brain is doing something it can't really help. It's measuring your life against the edited, filtered, carefully curated performance of everyone else's highlight reel. And here's the thing about that game. You always lose, not because your life is worse, but because you're comparing your actual behind-the-scenes footage to everyone else's trailer. Psychologist Melissa Hunt at the University of Pennsylvania ran a study on this in 2018. She had students limit their social media use to 30 minutes a day for 3 weeks. The result? Significant drops in both depression and loneliness, just from cutting back, not quitting, cutting back. The people who disappear entirely aren't just cutting back, they're opting out of the comparison game completely. And what happens when you stop measuring your life against a constantly refreshing highlight reel? You start to just live it. It's a bit like finally turning off a game you were losing. Not because you're a bad player, because the game was designed to make sure you'd never feel like you'd won. This one is genuinely wild, and it's worth knowing about even if you have zero intention of leaving social media. Gloria Mark is a professor of informatics at the University of California, Irvine, and she spent 20 years measuring human attention spans on screens. Here's what she found. In 2004, the average time someone spent focused on a screen before switching was about 2.5 minutes. By 2016, it had dropped to 47 seconds, and the median was 40 seconds, which means half of all the measurements were shorter than that. 40 seconds, that's roughly the length of the intro to a song before you skip it. Social media is specifically designed to reward rapid attention switching. Scroll, get something new. Scroll again, get something else. Your brain learns that if it just holds on for one more second, something novel is coming, and it gets very, very good at that particular skill, while getting measurably worse at staying with anything for longer. People who step away from social media aren't doing anything magical. They're just stopping the daily training in fragmentation, and their brains, being the neuroplastic things they are, start rebuilding sustained attention capacity. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. If you've ever caught yourself reading an article for 3 full minutes without reaching for your phone and felt genuinely surprised, you know exactly what's been quietly eroding. If this is landing for you and you want more of the research-backed, gently nerdy stuff, a subscribe keeps the Micro Wins Club growing. A quick thumbs up helps more people find it. And genuinely curious, are you someone who's already made the quiet exit? Or are you still thinking about it? Drop it in the comments. Here's something that sounds like it shouldn't be true, but keeps showing up in the research. People who leave social media don't end up more isolated. They often end up better connected. Not to more people, to the ones who actually matter. When your social energy isn't being spread across 500 acquaintances you haven't spoken to since 2019, across comment sections and reaction emojis, and the low-grade performance of keeping an online presence maintained, something shifts. You start investing that energy somewhere real. Think about the difference between a conversation you had recently that actually felt like a conversation and the last time you scrolled through someone's stories. One of those left you feeling something. The other was more like passing through a lobby. You were there, technically. There's a concept called continuous partial attention, coined by former Apple and Microsoft executive Linda Stone. It describes the state of always being half present. One eye on the moment, one eye on the phone, waiting for something to arrive that might be more important than what's actually happening. People who leave social media describe losing that background static. When they're with someone, they're actually there, not planning the caption for it. That might sound small, it isn't. The fear of missing out is the #1 reason people don't leave social media even when they want to, and it's a remarkably effective hostage situation. But here's what the people who've actually made the exit tend to report: most of what they were afraid of missing, they didn't miss it. Not because nothing was happening, but because the things that actually mattered, the real events, the real conversations, the real invitations, those still found them. Think of it like this. Before social media existed, people still went to parties, still had friend groups, still knew about things. The feed didn't invent connection, it just inserted itself between you and it, and then convinced you it was the only way through. The University of Bath ran a study in 2022 where participants took a 1-week break from all social media. What they expected: FOMO. What they found: significant improvements in well-being, reduced anxiety, reduced depression in 1 week, and the FOMO that felt so large and so real before the break, it turned out to be mostly noise. What you're afraid of missing is mostly other people performing their lives for an audience. What you actually miss when you're not there is far smaller and far less dramatic than the algorithm wants you to believe. This one is the quiet one, the one people who've left social media mention when you ask them what actually changed. Social media turns ordinary life into a production, not dramatically or all at once, but gradually. You start seeing moments through a lens of shareability before you've even finished experiencing them. That sunset becomes a post before it becomes a memory. The dinner becomes content. The holiday becomes a story arc with a beginning, a middle, and a satisfying last slide. Research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people who photograph experiences for social sharing actually remember them less clearly than people who simply experience them. When your brain is in performance mode, it's not in presence mode. You can't really do both at once. This is actually what our last video about people who don't feel the need to post was exploring in a slightly different direction. The people who never started posting understood instinctively that sharing a moment changes your relationship to it. The people who quietly disappeared had to learn it by contrast. They knew what it felt like before, and they noticed what came back when they stopped. What comes back is something simple. The moment is just yours. You don't need to frame it. You don't need a caption. You don't need 23 people to tap a small heart on it to confirm it was real. It was real. You were there. That's enough. You don't owe anyone a goodbye post. You don't need a reason that holds up in a group chat. If you've been thinking about stepping back, or if you already have, this is what the research keeps quietly confirming. Your attention is genuinely valuable. The things you're afraid of missing are mostly smaller than they feel, and real life has a strange habit of getting louder when you turn the feed down. If you've made your own quiet exit or you're in the middle of it right now, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. What surprised you? What was harder than expected? What do you not miss at all? There's more on this kind of thing over on the channel if you want to keep going. See you in the next one. Micro Wins Club. Small steps towards real change.